Hey guys, it's Drea. So today I have a video for you all about all the brand new drugstore face products, like base face products that I have picked up recently. I hauled these, I think right at the beginning of January. I have been using them now for a good almost 2 full months, so that I can bring you a full review. None of these are first impressions. I have been using them all as much as I possibly can, and I've definitely formed some opinions. So I figured I would do these in a ranking. I have 11 products here. I was thinking about doing it from worst to best, but ultimately I'm just really too excited to talk about these first couple things that I think are just so awesome. So I'm gonna do them from best to worst. Let's start out with this. I already mentioned this in my February favorites because it's just too good to only talk about once. This is the Revlon Photo Ready Insta-Filter Foundation. Mine is in the shade 220. So this is the foundation that I'm wearing today. This is very full coverage. It's it really is like Photoshop in a bottle. They couldn't have named it better. It's like you just filtered your face. You look like absolute perfection. I feel like flawless when I wear this foundation. It does have some cons. The cons are definitely the price and the amount of product. So there's 0.91 fluid ounces, not even a full ounce. And I think I paid at Walmart like $23 here in Canada. I only mention I'm in Canada because obviously pricing is gonna be different in the States. But as we know, at least at the drugstore, things do go on sale sometimes, and you can also use coupons sometimes. So that may mitigate the pricing factor just a little bit. The other con, I think, is that they have this sponge tip on the top, and a lot of product does collect in there, so you are constantly wasting product. I don't like that. I did try to actually use this sponge to buff it onto my face, and it doesn't really work all that well. It was very streaky. I had to definitely go over it with a beauty blender. That is my preferred method of using it, is with a beauty blender, and that will really just give you the most flawless look. And when I say beauty blender, I don't necessarily mean the brand name. This is just the L'Oreal beauty sponge. That is my absolute favorite beauty sponge, also drugstore. But this is just so flawless and gorgeous on the face. I totally recommend it. I will definitely be keeping this in my collection for a long time, repurchasing it when I run out, because I'm just going to keep using it forever and ever. So that's definitely my top product because it's kind of more visible on the face. If this was more visible, this might take its place, but it's very close. This is the Rimmel Stay Matte Mattifying Loose Powder. So they've never had a mattifying loose powder before in their roundup of products. So I do feel like you don't get a ton of product in here. I just picked up my closest loose powder to me, which is the Kat Von D one. There's 0.67 ounces in this. Obviously there's a price difference, but there's also a huge difference in the amount of product. So you have to kind of always look at the amount of product when you're looking at the price as well. This is a super, when people say finely milled powder, sometimes I'm not really sure what they mean when they say that, but when I open this powder just floats. It's very light as air. It almost poofs up, whereas something like this Kat Von D is very chunky and it kind of is very heavy. This is very, very light. Now I do find that this keeps my makeup on and set and keeps me less oily for much, much, much longer than many, many other powders. So the mattifying effect is definitely there. And hi, if you've never met me, I am super, super duper oily, very oily. So this has definitely become a godsend for me. If you are an oily skin girl, check this out at the drugstore, because this is better than a lot of high-end powders that I have tried. So I will definitely be repurchasing this when I run out of it as well. All right, so those are my top two. They are so amazingly awesome. Only downside might be price, but everything else about them is amazing. The next two products are they almost are 100% 10 out of 10, but there's one or two little things about it that just take it a notch down for me. So this is the new Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage Foundation. Mine is in the shade 120 Classic Ivory. I am so glad they put the words full coverage on here because it really is truth in advertising. When you go to the drugstore and you see full coverage on here and you're like, oh, I really need full coverage, you're gonna get what they say you're gonna get. There's so many companies out there that love to use different words to trick us into buying, but this is absolutely true. This is so full coverage. This is the same amount of coverage as the Revlon, definitely for sure. This has a pump. So better packaging than the Revlon. This lasts all day, just like the Revlon. Both of them are amazing at controlling your oily skin. However, the only thing I don't like about this, and this is a con for me, it might not be for you, the undertones in these. This is shade 120, and it's so dark on me. It's so dark. It makes me look so orange. It's the complete wrong undertone. It's very warm. The shade selection in this range is not the best in terms of undertones, and so I don't know that I'm going to be able to find a shade to actually suit me. When I wear this, I find myself having to reach for very light concealers to like balance everything, because otherwise I would just be a total Oompa Loompa. And this isn't even a very dark shade. It's all about undertone, right? Like, it's very warm and orange. So that's the only downside to this. If this had a shade that matched me, then I would be all over saying this would be like top 1 and 2 tied with Revlon. Like, they're both very good. So if you can find the right shade and right undertone in that foundation range, I would say go for it, because the pricing on that is going to be way better than the Revlon one. I was super excited when L'Oreal launched this new Infallible Matte line that they have. Now, I only picked up one product so far. This is the Matte Lock Mattifying Primer. This comes in a squeezy tube, which is good packaging. It comes out as like a white primer. It's not super liquidy, but it's not super thick. You can see it kind of slowly making its way down my hand. I think it's a really good texture. Once you actually rub it into your skin, it does have like a lotiony gel-like feeling to it. It feels really nice. It doesn't dry out your skin like some mattifying primers will, but it obviously doesn't hydrate it either. The other thing that I don't love, and this is really why, again, this is not in my top products, is because there are no pore filling properties in this. Like, it won't fill your pores in any way, shape, or form. So you might want to combine it with another type of primer. You might want to do a pore filling one and also use this mattifying one. You know, you just have to kind of experiment sometimes. But on its own, it doesn't pore fill, and that's the only reason I don't love it. I just really like it, because I do feel like this does keep me matte throughout the day, and that is an area in the drugstore, this mattifying primer, like gap in the drugstore, where there are just not a lot of good mattifying primers at the drugstore. I don't feel like there's a lot of good primers, period, at the drugstore. I've tried so many, and really I have no holy grails, no absolute loves. This is as close as I've gotten to really liking a primer from the drugstore. So again, if you're oily and you're on a budget, I think this is a pretty good one. Alright, so now we're kind of in my mid-range. These things have a lot of good things about them, and then some things that I don't love. But again, this can be a little bit of personal preference. So some of these products might be great for some of you. Let's start with both of these products from Rimmel. These are from their new Breathable line. So it's the Lasting Finish 25-Hour Breathable Foundation and same concealer. This one here is in the shade 103 True Ivy. This is in the shade Ivory. This is in the shade 200 Light. The light concealer is darker than the foundation. And when I hear the words light for concealer, like, usually I will get light medium. So I don't know, I feel like this is very dark for a concealer, and that's part of the reason that it's really in my middle of the road area of products here. This is pretty good coverage. It says on it that it's a lightweight medium coverage concealer, but I feel like it's a little bit better than medium coverage, to be honest with you. I've worn this quite a few times. This is the one I'm wearing today, and my dark circles are maybe peeking through slightly, but not really worse than many concealers I own. And this is 0.23 fluid ounces. Again, a lot of concealers are going to be in that range for high end. Some you might get up to like 0.3 ounces or 0.35. So depending, the price range is like iffy on this. But Rimmel is one of the more affordable brands at the drugstore, because we all know drugstores kind of getting a little bit expensive. So I like this. I like the coverage of it. I like the way it feels. It is very lightweight. Also, it's got this little sponge tip, which I feel like they're kind of playing with that whole Maybelline sponge tip area, but this sponge tip is too hard to do anything. Like, it's not going to blend out for you, so it's really useless. Again, it's just sucking up some product in there because you're going to have to use a brush or a beauty blender of some kind to blend this out. You can't use this little sponge. I don't know why they do that. It really just wastes product. The other thing is, I feel like with this squeezy tube, depending where I press, I can never see where the product is. So sometimes I have to squeeze really hard and then way too much comes out, or sometimes it comes out right away. So sometimes I've gone really overboard over applying this product. I find it very difficult to actually use the packaging. Let's talk about some really great packaging though. I think this packaging is fantastic. So this foundation, you screw it off, and then you have in here one of these huge applicators. It's a little bit different. Some people immediately think it's like the Tarte Shape Tape, but no, it's got this kind of like bend to it. It's also very, very, very flexible, which is nice. It's very liquidy though. When you take this out, you have to be a little bit careful. There were a few times where like a lot came out and just kind of went all over me because I wasn't paying close attention. So you have to be careful because of the consistency of the product is very liquidy. So let's talk about the way it wears in the product itself. It's very lightweight. It doesn't describe itself as anything more than medium. It says right on it, medium coverage foundation. So you know that going in. Don't blast it for not being full coverage, because it's not going to be, and it doesn't want to be. This is one of those your skin but better type foundations. So it definitely covers some imperfections, but it lets your natural skin peek through. And I've talked about it before, a lot of people with good skin should wear more natural foundations, myself included. I like to go for full coverage, but I really don't need to a lot of the time. The only thing for me though is, again, the oily skin issue. This doesn't really work well on oily skin at all. It looks great for like the first 2 hours, and then after that it just kind of, you know, melts off in the oiliest of areas, end of the nose and between the eyebrows, chin, like all of those areas. It's not going to hold up throughout the day on you if you're very oily skin. If you're normal combo to dry, combo to oily maybe, but definitely if you're like dry skin, I would say give this a shot. This will probably be great for you if you don't need a ton of coverage, because it is that breathable formula. It's going to let your skin breathe and just feel hydrated. It's going to be really great. So that is kind of why it's not my favorite, but it could end up being your favorite. So Maybelline partnered with Gigi Hadid, as we know. They came out with a ton of new products. This one is the Tinted Primer. This comes in, I think, 2 different shades. I got the shade Light Medium. When I saw Tinted Primer, I didn't really know what that meant. I was very surprised when I found that it's really not a primer. It's actually a contouring product. Apply this lightweight tinted base to contour before applying foundation. Okay, so I feel like them calling this a tinted primer is very misleading. They should have just named this a cream contouring product, and that would be the end of that. But them calling it a primer makes you think it's something you're going to put all over your face. It's definitely not, obviously. So I have experimented with this, putting it like under my foundation, and I really feel like it doesn't come through. And especially when you're contouring, it's very targeted, those contour areas, and putting foundation on top of that, it's like, how are you going to blend your foundation on top of that without moving that contour around? So I found the best way to use this is just to use it as you would a normal cream contour product. I use a brush, I put this on the back of my hand, I use the brush, dip into it, and then once I've applied my foundation, concealer, all of that, I go on top. And so I've used it today. I really like the way it looks. I feel like cream contouring is such a great way to give you a natural contour shape to your face without it looking like unnatural, without it looking like you have a stripe of brown on your face. So I do like it, but I don't think it's any better than any other cream contour product. I find it's very comparable to like the Wet n Wild Cafe Au Slay, which is a sponge cream contour, and that's way, way, way cheaper than this. So I would just save your money on this. I'm not going to say it's bad, because it's perfectly fine once you figure out how to use it, but it's unnecessary if you already have a cream contouring product, and there are definitely ones out there that are cheaper. So these next 2 products, I'm not going to say they're terrible, but I would definitely not repurchase them. And if I had known going in how they worked, I definitely wouldn't have bought them in the first place. So they're not terrible, but I just don't think they're necessary at all. This is the Revlon Photo Ready Color Correcting Pen. So this is one of your peach color correctors. It has the little clicky pen with the little brush on it. Your product comes out of there. It is a good tone. Like a lot of these color correctors end up being very orange. This is definitely peach, and it does blend out pretty well. You can see like it's not going to be super weird tone for color correcting. I just feel like it's a little too lightweight, that it doesn't really do enough. This almost goes away to, it's not to nothing, but to not enough pigment to actually be worth color correcting with. So this is the color corrector I used today, which I feel like you could definitely still see my dark circles with the combination of this color corrector and the Rimmel concealer. So I won't be finishing this up. I definitely have way better color correctors in my collection. Even a great drugstore one is the Hard Candy color corrector. It's fantastic. This one I don't love. And then this here is the LA Girl Pro Prep HD Definition Smoothing Face Primer. This isn't a new product, but it's new to me, so I figured I'd throw it in this review. This is just your standard clear silicone face primer. And again, if I would have known that going in, I would not have purchased it. It's just like there's 1,000 primers out there like this. Just your plain silicone primer. So it is going to fill in those pores. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to do anything else for you. And I feel like, again, there are way cheaper things you can buy that's going to do the same thing. Also, this is only 0.5 fluid ounces, where most primers are going to be around the full fluid ounce for the price that you're paying for it. So I just feel like this is not going to really do anything extra, and you're paying a little bit more because it's LA Girl. I don't even know. LA Girl I feel like is a little bit expensive sometimes, and sometimes it's like really cheap. All of these products I used all the Rimmel products together. I used all the CoverGirl products together, but I also played around with them. So I used a lot of different ones in combination with other ones, like all of us do in our own collections, because I really wanted to really put them to the test. So these two CoverGirl products, the new Vitalist Concealer and the new Healthy Vitalist Powder, I figured I would bust out my CoverGirl Vitalist Elixir Foundation, which I bought last year and I love. It's a fantastic foundation, but this isn't new to me. I've owned this for a very long time. Some people say it oxidizes, some people just say it dries down darker. I still haven't really decided what I think about that. I feel like it does kind of oxidize throughout the day. Now I'm okay with that because I'll use it with like translucent powders, and I'll use it with lighter concealers to balance it out. But the thing about this powder here is that it does the same thing. This powder oxidizes, and it makes any foundation I wear it with orange, and I just cannot abide that. So that's why these two products are in my very bottom two. This powder also, it has a very, very smooth velvet feel to it. It really feels gorgeous when you touch down into it. I think you can see on my finger there just like how much coverage you can actually get from this product. But it does kick up a lot of product too, so you are going to be wasting some product just with the powder kick up. There's 0.3 ounces in here, which I feel like is a pretty standard amount for a pressed powder. It says right on it that it has vitamins E, B3, and B5. That's why it's part of this whole Healthy Vitalist lineup. I never feel dried out when I wear this. I always feel like when I wear this, my face does look pretty flawless. Like the actual skin looks smooth. It's just, again, the oxidation and the color. Now, this is in the shade 710 Classic Ivory. And I don't know how many shades there are below that, but I would think not too many. And then the CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Concealer. This is in the shade, it doesn't say on here actually. I'm pretty sure it's just in the shade light or light medium. I'll list it below. I know there weren't a ton when I went and purchased it. There was only like maybe 3. But anyway, it's one of those, again, clicky pens with the little brush. I don't like that. I've never liked that in a product. You know, obviously this is just going to apply it and then you have to use another brush to actually blend it out, or a sponge. This is just super light coverage. And I did use this in a tutorial recently, my beach makeup, where I was trying to go for light coverage. And you know, for those of you that don't have a ton of dark circles, this kind of level of coverage might be absolutely fine if you're trying to do natural makeup. But most of us, I think, like, I never really hear from you guys that you want lighter coverage concealers. I only ever hear that people need fuller coverage concealers. So maybe there's a slight, you know, market out there for very light concealers, but I feel like it's not really that existent. So when you're gonna go pick this up in the drugstore, you might expect a certain level of coverage, and it's not gonna be there. It doesn't even say on here. I appreciate from Rimmel that they put right on here, medium coverage concealer. This doesn't say anything, you know, so you don't even really know what you're getting when you purchase it from the drugstore. I don't know if this still exists, but they had the Ready Set Gorgeous concealers, and I always found that those were super, super light coverage, and I feel like this is almost exactly the same product. It feels the same to me. It's very lightweight. It's very light coverage. And I feel like it could possibly be the same formula. They've probably, it doesn't say on here like it does on the powder, they've probably added their vitamins to this too to make it part of the Healthy Vitalist, you know, lineup of products. But I don't feel like when I wear this, my under eyes don't really feel any more hydrated than with other, you know, concealers. So I don't think there's any benefits to this product at all. There are just so many better concealers from the drugstore. So I would just wholly avoid this one. Really hope that this was some good information for you guys. I really liked doing this for such a long time, like really spending a lot of time with these products so that I could give you a full review as opposed to doing first impressions, because I really feel like my thoughts, I really was able to get them all together. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been doing less and less kind of product reviews on my channel lately. Let me know if you want me to bring them back. Are there any products that you would really like to see me review, like foundations or concealers, that kind of thing. If you have any more questions, of course, leave them in your comments below, and definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you around in the future. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're speaking kindly to yourself, especially when you look in the mirror. I love you guys. I will see you